In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the fuel pump sending unit on this Ford Excursion. Located in the fuel tank, which is underneath the back of the vehicle. Let's get started. I recommend starting by relieving the fuel pressure in the system for when we disconnect the fuel line. So what you want to do is locate the junction box that's in the engine compartment. It's going to be on the driver's side right next to your brake master cylinder and brake booster. It's got a cap that you can pry on a little tab on the front and open it up. The cap will pop off completely, giving you more access. This 20 amp fuse right here, part of the larger fuses, is the fuel pump fuse. So with some pliers, I'm going to gently pinch it, wiggle it. Watch out so you don't break it. There we go. Sometimes they're quite stuck. I'm going to set this aside. This cuts power to the fuel pump, so when you crank the engine over, it's going to fire the injector and release the rest of the fuel pressure in the system. All right. Now let's support this shield, which actually also holds the tank in it. The tank isn't bolted on with anything, just by itself, so it's important that you have something sturdy to hold the weight of everything on all four corners of this shield. Use an 18mm socket, unbolt the 4 mounting bolts for this shield. There's 1 on each corner. 2 in the back. Let's start with this one. And 2 on the front of the tank. On the filler neck side, you'll find that the 2 lines go into these 2 hoses. They're both supposed to have clamps. Unfortunately, only one of mine does. I'm going to use an 8mm socket and loosen this clamp up. I don't have to remove it. I just have to loosen it up enough so it can push out of the way. And then if you had one on the main filler neck hose, you would do the same. For me, I'm just going to leave this one like that. I'm going to use a pry bar to try to help pry these hoses off of the filler neck. At the same time, I'm going to have to pull the tank down. There we go. At least they broke free. So now slowly lower this tank and shield. Okay. As you lower it a little bit, pry on these hoses some more. There's one. This one is kind of stuck on here. When this happens, I like to spray a little bit of rust penetrant in here. And with a pick, work it back and forth. This will get that rust penetrant worked into the hose where it's stuck on the line. All right. Those are off. Continue lowering the tank just a little bit. Keep in mind we have fuel lines and the fuel pump connector still attached. All right, we'll stop right about there. Now with the tank low enough, let's disconnect the fuel lines. These locks right here, I'm just going to flip them, press them down, straight out, and then you can unhook the other end of it. We will need a fuel line disconnect tool for the rest of the line right here. For now, let's just get the clamps or the locks out of the way. Okay. the tool that we need looks like this. It's just a little piece of plastic. Sometimes they're metal, but it goes over the line into this line, or I should say into the fitting. You want to press them both together, and then twist and pull on the line, and that should disconnect it. I'm going to spray this down with some rust penetrant. Hopefully that'll loosen up the line in there, the connection point, because it is pretty stuck. Work it back and forth, and just try again. All right. All right, there we go. There's one. Let's do the same to the other line. One's a feed, one's a return. Okay, take your tool out, follow the other line. This is the vent line, goes right here. Let's undo the clamp on it and pull the hose off. For me, this one's fairly stuck, so I'm going to use a pick to try to break it free. There we go. Moving all of these lines out of the way, you'll notice that there's the fuel pump connector that's left to disconnect right up here on the frame. So just reach up for it, press on the locking tab, and disconnect it. Now we can drop the tank. Now let's lower the fuel tank. Make sure that none of the lines get caught as you do this. Here we go. Now at the top of the fuel tank, you'll see where the fuel pump is mounted. It's got this plastic ring that goes around it. There is a special tool that looks like this that basically grabs onto these little tabs and helps you spin it with the help of a ratchet. If you don't have this, you could very carefully use a pry bar and a hammer and try to tap it equally. Just keep in mind that these plastic tabs do tend to break, especially when you tap on them with a pry bar and a hammer. This tool, however, is supposed to fit right up here like that. Might need to get adjusted a little bit, because what you want is a perfect fit on these tabs so you can grab onto them. After trying this tool several times, it is so stuck for me that it's actually just slipping off. I did soak it in rust penetrant, hoping that would kind of creep into the threads, but looks like that didn't quite happen. So I'm moving on to a pry bar and a hammer. Now, once again, be careful so you don't damage this ring, so you can then clamp the fuel pump back on. All right, looks like it's moving. Fuel pump is moving, so the ring itself is very stuck on there. I'm going to try this tool one more time to see if it'll do what I need it to do. There we go. Remember in which direction the fuel pump lines went. This is the front of the vehicle here, so they kind of faced at a 45-degree angle towards the front of the vehicle. All right, that was it. Lift this up, If you have a whole lot of debris here, blow it out of the way, and then lift up your fuel pump. The fuel pump, well, the rest of it really, is down there, and it's pinched with two little tabs, one on each side. We'll have to squish those in and pull the whole assembly out. I'll show you what it looks like once I pull it out. So with one hand, I'm gonna pull up, with the other, I'm gonna squish on those tabs. And now, grab onto your fuel pump, pull it straight up, carefully. The O-ring came off as well. Try to drain as much of the fuel as you can back into the tank. And here are the clips that I was referring to earlier. This one and this one right here. What you want to do is pinch them. Sometimes that doesn't work though, so what I ended up doing is pushing and prying at the same time. That's what you want to do on both sides. Watch out for the level indicator or the float. That's in there too. Drain as much of the old fuel as you can back into the tank. That way your fuel pump sending unit is as empty as it can be. And there it is. Now if you had your new fuel pump, you would slide it right in to the tank with the level indicator first, or the float. Get that sock down in here. And you want to make sure that the level indicator, this arm, stays parallel with the vehicle. So this would be the back, this would be the front. You want the arm with the float facing towards the front of the vehicle. Drop this down and carefully line up the two clips so it can drop in to its little bucket down there. Once it's in, just press it. You'll feel it lock into place. As you press this down, make sure they click, the two locks. There we go. Clean up the area where the O-ring sits. You want there to be no debris so that it can seal up. I'm just using a rag, wiping this off, as well as the pump in case it collected any debris on the bottom side. Then take the O-ring that is provided with your pump, slide it over, and right into position. Line it up with that groove. Put the pump down. Make sure you line it up just like this. It's got a tab that it has to fall into position, so you can't really put it on the wrong way. And now it's time for the lock ring. Take your ring, slide it over the fuel pump, make sure that fuel pump is still lined up in position, and just try to thread this on. Of course, going clockwise, but the trick here is if you go counterclockwise, you'll feel it starting to lock in to the threads. Then you can bring it down all the way. All right, that's as tight as it'll get. What I'm going to do now is just give it a couple taps with a pry bar and a hammer to ensure that it's fully locked in and, well, fully threaded on, I should say. That pretty much stopped moving. The pump is on tight, everything is seated, so we're ready to put this back on the vehicle. Let's bring the fuel tank back up into position now. Just get it close to where you can have space to reconnect the lines. Might as well plug this one in while we're at it since it reaches. Press this on all the way, and let's put the clamp on. All right, keep raising it up so we can put the fuel lines on. The gray fuel line goes on the inner line right here. Just press it on until it clicks. Lock it in with this. And then the blue line went on the outer one. Clip that in, lock it, and that's connected. Let's plug in the fuel pump connector right up here on the frame. Make sure that connector clicks as well. All right, I felt that click. On the filler neck side, make sure you bend the hoses upwards so that you can put the filler neck or the hose over the frame as you bring this up. Continue bringing the fuel tank up. Make sure that you don't pinch anything as you go up, lines, hoses, anything like that. As this comes up, make sure that the filler neck hoses go over the frame right here. Try to line up the hoses right onto the filler neck. All right, press this one on all the way. This one, it looks like the tank has to come up a little more. And press this one on all the way as well. All right, got a new hose clamp for this one, since it was supposed to have one anyway. Since we're here, let's tighten these up using an 8mm socket. Just squish the hose down a little bit. That's plenty tight right there. All right. Install the bolts at the back of the tank. If this isn't lined up, just move it around to where you can line up the threads. I'm not going to tighten this. I'm just going to drive it in a little bit. All right. Get the other one in. With these two most of the way in, the tank should be centered up. So let's tighten these up. The torque on these is 98 foot-pounds. Now let's put the two front bolts in. And install the two bolts that go in at the front of the tank. And let's torque these down as well. Same torque for these, 89 foot-pounds. There's one. And two. With everything tightened down, remove any support that you used. Let's reinstall the fuel pump fuse right in the slot right here. Press it all the way down, and let's put the cover back on. It's got a clip on the back side that has to slide in. Once you feel it line up, just press it. That'll lock in, kind of like a hinge. Lock it down, and now let's build fuel pressure, crank the engine, and make sure it runs smoothly. Now let's cycle the key to the on position, back and forth. That's going to build fuel pressure in the system. When it's in the on position, you can hear the fuel pump run if you're in a quiet environment. And then after about 5 to 10 seconds, shut it off. We'll try again. This is going to have the fuel pump run, push fuel through the system, and then of course push all the air out. After about 3 or 4 cycles of the key, the engine should be ready to fire right up. Now it may stumble a little bit if there's still any fuel or air left in the fuel system, but it should start and run. All right.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.